For millennia, the Jedi had been keepers of the peace, going where no one else dare, and resolving conflict throughout the universe. Little did they know that beyond the veil of their own universe, beyond the reach of the Force itself, the Giants of Light were also working to defend the same justice which the Jedi held so dear. Soon they would have to face a threat which would endanger both universes. Hello and welcome to JPzilla, and join me as we dive into What If Ultraman Found the Star Wars Universe? This scenario takes place right before the events of Ultraman Zero: The Revenge of Belial, and during the events of Season 6 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which takes place right before Revenge of the Sith, in the very same year of 19 BBY. Ultraman Belial had just been soundly defeated by a surprising foe, the newcomer Ultraman Zero, and he sought to find a place to regather his strength and muster his forces beyond the reach of the Land of Light. By means unknown, but possibly related to his genius servant Fukude K, Belial discovered the secret to traveling to another universe. In the original timeline, he would come to the universe of Ultraman Noah, but in this timeline, he found himself overlooking a cold, frozen planet, the Chiss homeworld of Scylla. Belial smiled. This is where he would begin his new conquest. He would begin his empire here, and once he took this universe, he would use it to conquer the Land of Light. Belial descended on the frozen planet, proudly proclaiming himself to be the Kaiser of Darkness and demanding subservience. The Chiss, a proud warrior race, refused. Belial waged a one-man war against the Ascendancy. The Star Wars galaxy had known a variety of aliens, but none rivaled the raw power of this being. Belial managed to take control of several key Chiss production facilities, which Fukude K converted into factories for Belial's latest experimental weapon, the Darklops, as well as a small fleet of warships. He would also begin construction on his infamous flagship, the claw-like Malibrands. The Chiss were proud, but they were also desperate. For years now, the Chiss Ascendancy had been scouting out the larger Galactic Republic in the hopes of striking a prospective alliance to protect the galaxy from alien threats from outside the galaxy, including the Yuuzhan Vong and the Grisks. But they had waited. The Republic was in the middle of a brutal civil war and in little position to look beyond their borders. But the Chiss could use any and all help they could get. They sent one of their best agents, Mithra Nuruodo, better known to the galaxy as the future Grand Admiral Thrawn, to make contact with the Republic and request their help. Thrawn had already worked with Anakin Skywalker in the past, who had told the Chancellor about him, so getting into contact with the Republic wouldn't be too difficult for him since he was already known by people in high places. Thrawn told the Senate and the Jedi Order about this new mysterious threat from beyond the unknown regions which had decimated the Republic. Opinions among the Senate and the Jedi Order would be torn. The Republic was in the fight of its life against the threat of the Separatist Alliance. They were in no position to enter another fight. But if they did nothing, how long until the fight came to them? Belial had already managed to build a sizable fleet, just from the materials he found on the planet Scylla. And so the Senate continued to debate this problem for months. Some argued that Belial hadn't shown any interest in the Republic, while others insisted that it was only a matter of time before this powerful alien aggressor turned his eyes into the heart of the galaxy. And Palpatine let them argue, because he too was torn. He was so close to executing Order 66 and winning the long game started thousands of years ago by Darth Bane, the Sith's game of subversion and domination. One wrong move could cost a millennium of progress. Eventually, Palpatine decided to wait. Once he ended this farce of a war and destroyed the Jedi Order, he could confront this would-be Emperor of Darkness with a unified front, and with his new apprentice at his side, nothing could go wrong. The Senate, at the encouragement of Palpatine, voted not to intervene. Thrawn of the Chiss leaves, desperate to get back to his people and lead the charge against Belial. While the Senate were firmly resolved to not intervene in the conflict, tension over this matter still soared within the Jedi Order itself. Some Jedi believed that it was their duty to try to save as many lives as they can, and that not intervening would be a crime, while others worried about stretching themselves too thin when they already had the Separatists to deal with. Eventually, it was decided to send just a handful of Jedi, including Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, Plo Koon, and Kit Fisto. The Jedi arrive and find the once serene, glacial Chiss homeworld turned into a fiery hellscape crawling with darklapses. The ominous shadow of a clawed hand looms over the ruined planet, the framework of Belial's mighty flagship, which was now nearing completion. They find the Chiss resistance, led by Thrawn, on a world on the outskirts of Chiss space, known as Kelwis. Their fleet had been decimated, and they had been holding on by a thread. The Jedi quickly realized that the threat of Belial was far more significant than the Republic had realized. The Jedi sent a video recording of the decimated world of Sicilla back to the Jedi Order on Coruscant. The Jedi were taken aback. Never had they seen such ruin and reckless destruction, even from the Separatists. The Council voted to release the footage to the public. As soon as the footage hit the news, public opinion immediately swayed. They now understood that this wasn't just another aggressive warlord on the fringes of space, but a true monster at their doorstep. So Palpatine relented and sent the 501st to assist Anakin in reclaiming Sicilla and stopping this threat. Anakin and the 501st led the assault on Sicilla, guns blazing. The silver lining to Sicilla being completely decimated was that the 501st didn't have to be gentle, so they bombarded the planet. Their turbo lasers hammered the darklapses, slowly melting them to slag. Finally, Ultraman Belial himself emerges. He shoots his Deathsium ray, instantly destroying the fleet. Anakin and the Jedi attack in their starfighters, buzzing around Belial like bugs. Belial attacks, but they continue to dodge using their Jedi reflexes. It doesn't take long for them to realize that there is absolutely nothing they can do to him, and Anakin gives the call to retreat. As the starfighters zoom off, Anakin's wing is clipped by Belial's claw, and he begins to nosedive. Even Anakin's skills aren't enough to regain control of the starfighter, which has been nearly sliced in half. He plummets nose first into the ground with a huge explosion. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka look on in horror as his student and her master seemingly meets his end. Plo Koon and Kit Fisto are stunned into silence. They reflected back to when Qui-Gon Jinn had presented the young Anakin to the High Council, insistent that he was the chosen one. They had their reservations then, but soon they too had become convinced that he was the one prophesied of in the legend. But now he was gone, and with him, hope. Anakin woke up in a daze. Or did he wake up? He couldn't open his eyes. He couldn't move. Was he dead? Hey, I saw how you tried to take on Belial. That takes some guts. The voice seemed to echo through Anakin's head, more of a thought than a sound, but it clearly wasn't Anakin's imagination. Who are you? Anakin asked. My name is Zero, Ultraman Zero, and I'm here to stop that guy, Zero said. I could use your help. Do you mind if I borrow your body for a bit? I'll give it back. What? Anakin stuttered. You died in that encounter, Zero said. If I merge with you, that will bring you back to life and allow me to operate in this galaxy. It's a win-win. So, are you in? Do I have a choice? Anakin asked, half joking, half serious. I could let you die, Zero joked. Okay, let's do this, Anakin agreed reluctantly. He didn't like the sound of this, but he didn't really have a choice. Still, he had a bad feeling about this. Ultraman Zero appeared right before Belial's eyes. Belial was startled, but quickly recovered. He was expecting this. After all, he was the one who had launched the assault on the Land of Light, a universe away, just to lure Zero out. Of course, he wasn't expecting him to pop up right in front of him, but to him, it was a small inconvenience. Zero, I've been waiting for you. Belial, it's time to settle this. Belial laughed. Not yet. Darklops, to me! A dozen Darklopses popped up out of nowhere and began to engage Zero as Belial fled the scene. It's not that he was afraid of Zero, but he knew better than to underestimate him. He would have his revenge, when the time was right. Zero just barely managed to fight off the Darklopses before reverting to his human form. Right now, Sicilla was the worst place to be stranded without any powers, so Anakin/Zero scrambled to find the nearest cover they could before Belial sent out any more of his Darklopses. Anakin Skywalker wandered the ruins of the Chiss homeworld, searching for a way to contact his friends and let them know he was alright. Eventually, he stumbled upon a small cell of Chiss survivors with a broken communications station. Anakin, being a tech wizard as well as a space wizard, managed to get the broken comm station barely operational enough to send a message to the Republic, letting them know that he was alright and with a group of Chiss stranded on Sicilla. Zero couldn't simply transform and fly off the planet because by now the skies were swarming with Darklopses, so all he could do was wait for help. Palpatine was ecstatic to hear the news. He had believed that years of subtle manipulation and grooming of the most promising apprentice he would ever find, the Chosen One, had just gone down the drain. But now there was a glimmer of hope, but it was faint. Skywalker was right in the heart of the most dangerous place in the entire galaxy right now. Palpatine could not let anything happen to his future apprentice. But fortunately, Palpatine had a few cards up his sleeve. Cards which he had been saving for a special occasion such as this. He activated his card, giving the signal to Kamino to start the Zillo project. Meanwhile, Belial continued to spread terror from planet to planet, a growing shadow encroaching on the heart of the galaxy. He struck at Republic and Separatist worlds alike, not caring for the petty squabbles of lesser beings. He wanted it all. The entire universe would be his. This small galaxy was a mere stepping stone for him. Belial's ruthless onslaught forced Dooku to consider a temporary ceasefire with the Republic, a move which was heartily accepted by both sides. Suddenly, the grievances of both parties seemed insignificant in contrast with the current situation. The brightest minds of the Separatists and the Republic came together to devise new defenses against this wave of terror. They began construction on a new skyscraper-sized breed of droid meant to counter the Darklopses. While giant droids were rare in the Star Wars universe, due to them being largely impractical, there are some examples of supersized droids which let us know that it is possible, such as the EVS construction droid, which reached a whopping size of 200 meters tall. That's about 656 feet, or about twice the size of Heisei Godzilla or Godzilla 2014. They would also experiment with metals and alloys in different combinations such as Beskar, Ultrachrome, and Cortosis to create an armor which could disperse the powerful beams of the Darklopses. For offense, they used their experiments for the Separatists' secretive Death Star plans, as seen in Attack of the Clones, as a basis for a much smaller scale version of the Death Star's planet-destroying turbo laser, using kyber crystals from the planet Ilum. The Republic and Separatist forces would lose a lot of ground, but using their Zillo beasts and giant droids, they started fighting back. Of course, they were able to do little against Ultraman Belial himself, but Ultraman Belial cannot be everywhere at once. Palpatine launched Operation Save Anakin, sending everything he had to Sicilla, Zillo beasts, giant droids, and all. It was a fierce battle, but with the help of the mysterious Ultraman Zero, who seemingly showed up out of nowhere, they were able to destroy the Darklopses and win back the planet. Unfortunately, this was because Belial had more or less allowed them to do so. Belial had conquered dozens more planets by now, and had established factories across the galaxy. He still had an endless supply of Darklopses and Legionoids to rely on. With Anakin back to safety, Palpatine breathed a quiet, heavy sigh of relief. He resolved to do whatever was in his power to convince the Jedi High Council to send Anakin on as few missions as possible from now on. He could not risk losing his greatest asset. But in spite of his best efforts, Anakin insisted that he be on the front lines of this war, and the Council agreed. This war had suddenly become the galaxy's most important front, far outweighing the Clone Wars. They needed all hands on deck, and Anakin was their strongest hand. Of course, now he had an ace up his sleeve. He could transform into Ultraman Zero at will. Nearly as soon as Palpatine manages to avert the disaster of losing his potential apprentice, he is faced with a disaster nearly as consequential. Ultraman Belial lays siege to Kamino. If he manages to conquer this planet, not only will it deprive the Republic of a steady supply of soldiers, the clones, it also opens up the door to whole new catastrophic possibilities. The Kaminoans had two key pieces of technology, which could potentially let Belial create an invincible army: the cloning chambers and the mind control implants. If Belial created an army comprised of Belial clones, all enslaved to his will by the mind control implants, and able to be grown to maturity in a matter of weeks, it would be game over not only for the galaxy of Star Wars, but for the entire multiverse. Palpatine could not let this happen. He sent everything he had into Kamino's defense. Anakin led the defense. Belial led the offense. Anakin turned into Zero, and the two giants clashed amidst the waves. Zillo beasts and giant droids and Darklapses and Legionoids clashed in a mighty battle, a duel of the fates. Like in the Revenge of Belial movie, Belial would get the upper hand on Zero. With Zero out of the game, there was nothing the Republic could do against Belial's onslaught. Eventually, they were forced to retreat. Kay would investigate the facility of the Kaminoans, only to discover an incredible discovery: fully functioning cloning facilities far more advanced than his own cloning techniques. Whereas before, it would have taken him years of trial and error, and many failed attempts, to produce one clone of Belial, that being Ultraman Geed. Now, in this universe, he could produce 1,000 clones in a matter of months, all loyal to Belial because of the mind control. Belial's forces captured Anakin Skywalker, who was revealed to be the human host of Ultraman Zero, a fact that Fukuda Kay had already easily deduced. Belial imprisoned him in a snow globe and made him watch as he grew his clones to fruition and sent them after the Land of Light. This had always been his true goal: to get Zero out of the way so that he could launch his third invasion against the Land of Light. Discovering the cloning facility had been an unexpected bonus. Soon, all resistance was snuffed out, both in the galaxy of Star Wars and in the universe of Ultraman. This is the result of two universes, never meant to meet, coming into contact with the ultimate catastrophe. So what did you think of my theory? I tried my best to balance out the overwhelming power of Belial with the more grounded warfare of the Star Wars universe, which is why I thought it'd be very fun to incorporate the Zillo beasts and, of course, giant droids. But unfortunately, it was a losing battle from the start. But what do you think? How would you have written this what-if scenario? There's millions of possibilities, and I would love to hear your take on this crossover in the comments down below.